We have here today on the Moms Without Capes podcast, my friend Sharon Mooney. Welcome to the show, Sharon.
Thank you, Ani. I'm so thrilled to be here. I've been following you for some time and I just really adore you and adore what you do for moms and creating the safe space for us because it takes a village.
Yes, absolutely it does. So, Sharon is empowering mothers to make smart financial choices, create sustainable habits, and become their own financial experts. Through her services, she is educating mothers on the importance of financial security and providing them with the tools they need to pass that knowledge on to their children. Today, Sharon will be sharing with us all about living benefits, what they are, and why we need them. So, for all of you listeners, I actually know Sharon in real life, right? Not that real life isn't on the computer, but I have touched her. We can shake hands, right? So she lives here in the same town that I'm in, and I heard Sharon speak. I actually knew her before I heard her speak, but I really didn't understand what it was that she did until she spoke at an event. And I was fascinated by the concept of living benefits. And as soon as I heard her speak, I just knew that she would make a perfect guest for this podcast because I think this is such an important thing, but it's something that many of you may not even know about because I for sure didn't know what living benefits were, had no idea. We always think of like life insurance and you know what happens like when somebody dies, and even that I don't even know much about, but Sharon is such a wealth of knowledge and I am excited to bring her here today to share with you all about living benefits. So before we dive into that, I want to dive a little bit into your background, and can you share with us a bit about your journey and how you came to be about like in this place?
Yes, absolutely. So, I'm still on this journey, this wonderful, incredible, ever-changing journey of life, and it's super fun. But my background actually is not in finance. My background is education, and more specifically, music education. And so that's what I went to college for. Studied down at Baylor University in Texas, and I love music. It will always be a passion of mine. However, it is very hard to make a living as a music educator and live the life choices that I wanted to provide my family. And I have two little boys, and so they are really, a big part of why I do what I do. And it just is when you become a parent, so much becomes apparent what we don't know. And so it really is one of those things where I began my journey learning about finances kind of as a way to help educate my kids because I didn't want to pass on the bad habits that even now I'm still currently unlearning that my family of origin gave me. Okay. So that really began this whole thing as I began meeting with this lady here in Billings, Elizabeth, who eventually became my mentor and who hired me as one of her agents. And it really began as a way of me wanting to better myself so that I could better, my future for my children. And I'm so grateful, very, very thankful to be in this space. But my whole approach to any of this is education first. We don't know what we don't know. And we don't know unless somebody's brave enough to take that time to educate us about it and also be vulnerable and be like, I've been there. I know what it's like. I understand that this is a very, money's a very taboo subject. It's kind of like sex, we don't want to talk about it. It's something that we always swept under the rug, and in my household growing up. So I just don't want to, I want people to be able to be open about it and honest about it and honest about their mistakes and, help others grow from that. And I want to be honest with my children about my mistakes because I made plenty of them. I still make them, So being able to be vulnerable with our children in that sort of way when it comes to these kind of conversations, I think is super important. And so that's what I want. I want to empower parents and moms especially to have those conversations because what's done in school is so surface level and so basic, and it needs to be a lot deeper than that. So
that's so awesome. Like, I love how you came into this world of like finance, just being able to help you, like just looking for ways to help you and your generation, like the next generation
yeah,
and your own family. And then you just turned around, you're like, other moms, other people need to know exactly what you're finding out. And I forgot about that until you said about the music background. When
Mhm.
I was doing the research for this episode, I came across that you were a pianist, right?
Yes. My major was piano pedagogy and performance.
Got you. Yeah, I saw that, and I'm actually taking piano lessons right now. So I
Are
was like,
you?
that's so. I'm like, I'll have to talk to you about that. So
That
we'll
is
talk about
so
that later.
fun. Good
But
for you.
I
I
am
think
loving it.
adult students are the absolute best. I've always loved, teaching adult students because they, number one, want to be there. They're
Mhm.
eager for that knowledge, and they'll go home and and practice
Practice.
and yeah, and do all the things that I ask, and it's great.
Yeah, and I'm loving it. Like, it's
Oh,
definitely opened up my world.
that is so
So
fun. I love that little part.
let's get into living benefits, and let's start with what are they? What are they? Because when I
Oh,
heard you speak, that was
living
like really the
benefit.
first time I ever heard of them.
Yes,
So
so that is not uncommon, okay? And the reason I say I'm a living benefits expert when I talk to people is because that's their first question. What are living benefits, and why have I never heard of them? And it comes back to that. We don't know what we don't know unless we're willing to put ourselves out there and either ask those questions or somebody is brave enough to tell us what they are. Okay, so living benefits are this really amazing tool that we can use to protect ourselves in case of a medical emergency. Okay, I like to call it. We're GoFunding ourselves. When I scroll Facebook, I see 2, 3, 4 GoFundMe's, a day. And this time of year, it's even worse, where you have people raising money for individuals who have gone through a medical emergency, can't afford their copays, or don't have insurance, or they're having to quit their job, so they have no income whenever they've had a major medical emergency. So living benefits are kind of this stand in the gap for you. Living benefits come as a rider. This is a technical term that insurance professionals use. But what it is, it's an add-on to your life insurance policy. And there's several different kinds. The first, I educate about 3 different living benefits. So the first one is what we call a terminal illness benefit. So this is if you go to your doctor and he tells you, you have 24 months or less to live. This is a terminal diagnosis, what you have. You need to get your affairs in order. That's worst case scenario for anybody.
right,
I'm not going to want to
right,
spend a day in an office or traveling for work or whatever away from my family if I get a terminal diagnosis. I want to be with them.
absolutely,
But with that terminal diagnosis, there's going to be expenses. Your mortgage is still going to be due. You're
right.
still going to need to feed your family. Your car payments don't stop just because you've gotten sick. Um, all of these things that are needed to still provide your family are still, your expenses are still
Yeah,
going,
we're
but they're
still
also
expected.
rising,
Right.
and your income is going to go down because you're probably not going to be working. So this helps where that intersection
Yeah.
happens of your expenses going up and your income going down, helps alleviate that, you can access up to 90% of a death benefit at that time of diagnosis. So that's, if you have $1 million life insurance policy, that's $900,000 for the
Yeah.
last years of your life to live and enjoy your family, set your affairs in order, pay off your debts, make sure that your family is going to be taken care of in those days after you're gone. Okay, so that's the first one. The second one is what we call a chronic illness benefit. All right, this functions kind of as a long-term care policy, but I don't know if you've seen the price of long-term care policies lately. I just had to go through this with my dad, putting him into a long-term care facility and then moving him eventually into hospice. Those prices are crazy when it comes to long-term care, and the policies that insurance companies sell are hundreds of dollars a month in order to have that coverage. And yes, it is worth it. However, a lot of people physically can't do that. When we're living month to month, paycheck to paycheck, that extra $300, $400, $500 a month, just in case, we have to go into long-term care, is not doable. So long-term care, you qualify for long-term care if you can't perform 2 of the 6 daily functions of living. That is eating, bathing yourself, going to the bathroom, dressing yourself. There's a list of 6.
Okay.
If you can't perform 2 of those, then that qualifies
Qualify.
you for that disability and that long-term care chronic illness rider. Okay.
And if you had the living benefits add-on on your
Yes.
insurance, then it covers
It would.
most of it, or just helps?
So
It helps?
what it is, it would be 2% of that death benefit for 50 months. That's
Okay.
a little over 4 years. Okay.
Okay.
So again, if you have $1 million policy, that's $25,000 a month that you would get
That can go
every
towards
month
it.
for 50 years or for 50 months.
50
50
months.
months.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
That sounds like a pretty good.
So given also here in Billings, I don't know if you know this, Ani, but the average cost of a nursing home per month here, the only reason I know this is because I looked it up because I was thinking about moving my dad here, is $8,000 a month.
Holy smokes. Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, when we think about that worst case scenario, we need to make sure that we're prepared financially for that, because if we are not able to take care of that, who's that burden going to fall on?
Right.
It's going to be our family and our loved ones.
Yeah.
And we're going to end up having to set up the GoFundMes and raise the money and do the bake sales and all of that so that we can take care of our loved ones. Okay.
Right.
So the last one, that's the chronic illness rider. The last one, this is probably the most important benefit that I think come with living benefits. I'm going to pause here. I have some stats I want to read you. Okay. So these are all from CDC and 4U magazine. There's a few that I found when I was doing some research, but 13% of women age 18 or over are in what we would consider poor health. Okay.
What percent was that?
13%.
Okay.
Okay. 1 in 5 female deaths this year were due to heart disease.
Right.
Okay. Heart disease is rising.
Preventable, right? And with lifestyle changes.
Yes. Yes. 42% of women, this is across the board, no matter the age, 45.2% of women suffer from hypertension and or take blood pressure meds.
Good.
Sitting right here. I am a stat.
Okay.
And then this is one that this is not a stat, but it's a simple fact. Women ignore their health more than men. They do not get routine checkups. And by the time a lot of us realize something is wrong in our bodies,
It's too late.
the aggressiveness of diseases has probably gone a little bit far to not need drastic treatment.
Right.
Okay. So with that in mind, the last benefit that we have in living benefits is called a critical illness benefit. Now, this is for those cancers that are not terminal, those heart attacks, those strokes, traumatic brain injury, loss of limb. If you were to have any sort of, growths or tumors that, were malignant, but you needed to get those taken care of.
So conditions where you will survive,
You're
but they are
going to be
definitely, they impact your life in a major way.
You're going to be okay. You're going to make it, but you're going to have to take a significant amount of time off of work to convalesce.
Right.
The average treatment time after a heart attack, this is for anybody, male or female, but the average treatment time, they suggest taking 12 months off of work.
Wow.
If I took 12 months off of work, and I didn't work for a whole year, I would be in the poorhouse.
Right.
I would not be able to afford my bills.
Impacts your
There is nothing that I can do to keep my beautiful house, to keep, the food on the table for my kids. Okay.
Right.
So a critical illness benefit pays up to 70% of that death benefit. So if you were to, have $1 million policy, that would be $700,000 that would be due to you. The reason they don't do 100% accelerated death benefits is because they do want to keep a little bit there for your family to have after you pass.
Right.
They don't want to do what we call lapse a policy. That is where there's not enough premiums to make the minimum to keep the cost of insurance in place.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So that is kind of in a nutshell our living benefits. And I do want to point out there are a lot of companies now, your standard insurance companies are making the living benefits and the riders available for a price. A lot of these insurance companies, you do have to pay in order to get those added on, and they are charged by the rider. So each rider.
Okay, so you have to choose which rider you would like.
A lot of the insurance companies have it with that. And then a lot of insurance companies now only have it on permanent life insurance policies.
Okay, not like, is that different from the term life insurance?
It is, yes.
Okay.
So
that's a whole different episode.
It is, it totally is. But I want to point out there are companies, and I work with many, that offer living benefits standard with each product that we sell, whether it's permanent or terminal. You just have to do your research and you have to know those companies. And as we are non-captive agents. So what that means is we look at all these insurance companies that we can have contracts with and find those that have our clients' best interest in mind. And when you have those companies that are offering these riders standard, there's no reason to pay for, another.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you want to make sure that you're educating yourself, as well as reaching out to people that can do the research for you as well.
So how much are we looking at, like, to be able to add that if it's not standard? Or
if it's not standard, it's not for permanent policies. It's not going to be super expensive. It's not going to double your premium payment, but it's going to be significant. I mean, I do believe United, or not United. There's one lady, she does health insurance, but she also they do life insurance here in town. I asked her just so I could compare what they have. And I think that she said that they could only add the chronic illness benefit rider on their plan. And it added $50, give or take, to the plan a month.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay.
but they didn't go all the way up to the death benefit either. There's only, I think it caps at like, it depending on how big your death benefit is, I
Okay.
think it caps at like half or less than that. So there's a lot of fine print, a lot of fine print
Oh,
when
of
it
course.
comes
Yeah.
to
Being sure.
the different companies that do different things.
Right.
So my first recommendation is if you already have life insurance, great job. That's a great first step. Okay. Number two, you need to ask if you have living benefits because you might have them and not know it. There's a lot of
Right.
people that I've worked with that have life insurance. They're like, oh yeah, and I have that, and I'm like, well, do you have living benefits? And they say, I don't know. Let me check. Turns out they had living benefits and they didn't even know it.
Right.
So
Right.
reaching out to your agent, that's what they're there for. When
Mhm.
I see a client calling, I am so excited, first of all, because I know, oh my gosh, I want to talk to them. Like I like having conversations to my clients, but number two, they need me.
Mhm.
I am on. Okay. So don't be afraid to reach out to your insurance agent to have those conversations. That's what we're there for. So,
Right. Right.
yeah.
So you kind of have we've already talked about how important they are,
Mhm.
but is there anything else that you'd like to add to that? Like why it would be important for me or for any of the listeners to have?
Well, I want to tell a story. Okay.
Okay.
I want to tell a story that I think will illustrate this. Okay. So um, there was a lady, the matriarch of a family, and she held that family together with grace and dignity and was one of the most selfless people that I've ever met. Um, Brought up a family of three daughters, and she did not work outside the home. She was a homemaker. What I like to say is she was crunchy before there was crunchy. Before Crunchy Mama was trendy. She did that, and she made a lot of her kids' clothes. She would
Very
bake and
resourceful. Yeah.
do very and they were a single income household. So her husband went and worked long hours so that she could stay home. Okay. Fast forward through the years, she took impeccable care of her body, worked out every day. Um, she ate organic, vegan almost. Um, was very, very conscious about what she put in her body, did a lot of research on the chemicals and processed food and all of that, all of that.
Yeah.
And uh, brought her children up. They scattered, and she was sitting in church with her husband one day and started to feel this kind of tingling in her arm and wasn't sure what was going on, but she got through church, and as they were walking out in the parking lot, she stumbled and ended up not being able to get back up. Her legs would not work. So her husband got her into the car. They drove straight to the emergency room, um, admitted her, started doing all these tests. Come to find out, after about 2 days of tests, she was having a massive stroke due to a blood vessel. The best that they could see is that it had ruptured in her brain and it was actively bleeding. And surgery was not an option. There really was not going to be any treatment. Okay. The family was called in, and within 2 weeks, she was gone. It went from this perfectly healthy, fit mother who had no family history, no anything in her
There was no
history
reason to believe. Yeah.
to even think that this would happen. Um, that was 3 years ago, and that was my mama.
Mhm. It still hit me. I knew that story from when you spoke, and it still hit me. Like,
So, what's crazy is that 3 years ago, I was a life insurance agent and I knew about living benefits. And I didn't tell my family what I did
mhm,
because of fear. And I didn't tell my family that I knew of this amazing tool that could help um, whenever we were in our worst case scenario of losing our mom and our matriarch,
mhm,
that this even, that they would want to hear about this. My mom didn't have living benefits. So she did have a small life insurance policy that did end up paying some of her medical expenses. There was still a lot that over the next 2 to 3 years, my dad would have to pay. Um, and then fast forward to this year, my dad succumbed to liver failure in September. And the lesson that I can tell you that I've learned from that scenario is if you have life insurance, that's great. If you have living benefits, that's amazing. But you can't have life insurance and living benefits without having a plan of what is going to happen in case of the worst case scenario. I want all of you that are listening to this to think about your worst case scenario. If something were to happen to you, your partner, your child, let's all go there for a minute. I know it's not
pretty. It's not a
comfortable.
pretty sight.
It's not a pretty sight, okay? But I want you to think about that just with me for a minute. What would they do? Do they even know your wishes? When was the last time you updated your will? Do you even have a will? Do you have an estate plan? Um, my dad had a 7-year-old will that he hadn't updated after my mom died. She was still his executor on his will. So going back, what we had to do is pay a lot of money to an estate attorney now to go through and name someone else executor and pay all of the court fees and
Yeah.
all of that to get that situated. Okay. So all of these need to be done for your family. It really is the most amazing love gift that you can give your family. Um, I know that you, Ani, talk about taking care of ourselves. This is a way we take care of ourselves and our family.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
It is vital. It is so important because we don't want worst case scenario. Our family can't, my family couldn't handle worst case scenario. I'm being completely honest.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And I'm from a split family. Like I have a partner that, we have the kids 50% of the time, and then their dad and his
Mhm.
family. So these intricate details of what happens if something happens to me has to be written down, has to be put in place in order for there to be the least amount of tension, the least amount of heart. All I want my kids to do if something happens to me is grieve.
Mhm.
That's the only thing they need to be worried about.
Right. Not about the finances or what's going
Correct.
to happen next. Yeah.
Right.
Tell me this, Sharon, like what I've heard this before, and I even thought of this myself as a stay-at-home mom.
Mm,
When you don't have any income, like you're not contributing financially to the family,
right.
what would be, I feel like that this would be an objection coming
Mm,
from a stay-at-home mom who doesn't feel like because she's not financially contributing to the family that there isn't any impact if something were to happen, any of those three scenarios. Like,
yeah.
what do you say to that?
So my mom was a stay-at-home mom,
Mhm.
and I remember distinctly having a conversation with her where I asked her if she had life insurance. And this was when I was still in college. And she told me no. And her reasoning was, I don't work outside the home. There's no reason for me to, be protected. There's no income to cover
Right.
if something were to happen to me. What I didn't know then was the way I challenged that and I pushed back on that thought is, what do you contribute to your family in a non-financial way?
Mm,
Okay. What would your partner have
say.
to outsource
Right.
in order to take the place of you?
Right. Yeah, you put a money
They would
amount to it. Yeah.
have to be a chauffeur, be a housekeeper, cleaner,
All the hats.
cook, organize,
Right.
decorate for each holiday, do
All
all
the
of
things
those
that we do.
intricate
Yeah.
things um while grieving.
Right.
That's the
Right.
thing that I want everybody to get is this life, still keeps on moving.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean that we're in an emotional place to keep on moving either. Okay.
Right.
So the thing that you need to think about is your contribution to your family is not just monetary.
Yes.
It is that emotional support, that physical person there to go to, that person that takes that peanut butter and jelly and puts it on the plate, that
Mm.
does the grocery pickup order and actually knows what to put in the grocery pickup order, right?
Right.
I I challenge, those of you that say you don't have any income to supplement or to replace. Do you really want to talk about what you're worth? Because you are worth so much more than you think you are.
Absolutely.
There was a graphic that I saw a couple of years ago that was the average stay-at-home mom was worth over $200,000 a year. I challenge that number to be lower today.
Right.
So do not discredit yourself. Do not devalue what you bring to the table as a stay-at-home parent.
Absolutely.
Not just a mom, a stay-at-home parent. There are stay-at-home
Right.
dads too.
Right.
And they are absolutely vital in keeping a family unit running, keeping it running smoothly. There's not a price tag you can put on that.
Absolutely.
So
Agree. I agree 100%.
yes, you don't even come at me with that.
So Sharon, we talked all about living benefits and how they can benefit us and why we need them and all of that. But let's just digress a little bit. And because what we just talked about is so important to taking care of ourselves, as you pointed out, but on a day-to-day basis, what do you do to take care of yourself?
Oh, so I could be better about this, Ani. This is why I'm in your community. So day to day, my big thing, and my family knows this, is I love sleep. I love sleep. Okay. And sometimes I just need a little bit extra
Mm-hmm.
than the average person. 8 hours a day, 8 hours of sleep for me is kind of like bare
Drop in the
minimum.
bucket. Yeah.
Bare minimum. So
We're all
if I
different.
have to
Yeah.
take a nap, I'm gonna take a nap.
Okay.
If I have to sleep in a little bit later, if I take the kids and I don't have to be at work until 10:30 or whatever, I'm gonna come home, I'm gonna take a little nap.
Yeah.
Okay?
No, I
And
love that.
then
I love how you're saying that
also
too. I'm gonna do it. If I need it, I'm gonna do it.
yeah. And my partner, he's always like, "Oh, if you nap, you die sooner." I'm like, "Boy, I'm gonna die sooner anyway. Don't you know the stats?" Let me take my nap. But yeah, so I love to make sure that I get enough sleep. I think my family likes me when I get enough sleep
Mhm.
too. But then also my coffee, and I know I kind of struggle with this a little bit because I do have hypertension and I do, have to take care
Mhm.
of myself. But I thoroughly enjoy coffee. Like it is my comfort.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I have regular and I have decaf. Okay. But I don't take that away from me. Okay. I can take care of other things, do less pasta, do
Yeah.
less cheese, do other, watch my salt intake, those kind of things. But I choose to not take
Absolutely.
away coffee.
Yeah.
Okay. I
Yeah.
am choosing that because I enjoy it and my soul
Yes.
loves it. So
Yes. So feeding
making
your
that
soul.
conscious choice of, okay, so in order to not do that and make my life miserable, I'm going to do something else.
So do you have a book that you can recommend or a book that has
Um,
greatly impacted your life?
oh my goodness, so many. I
This
love
is
to
always such a hard question.
I
Oh my
really
gosh. I'm
oh,
like,
I
I
love
can't
to
pick
read so
one.
much. Do you know, I actually I would be the one that would be like, my mom would send me to my room to clean, and I'd be cleaning, and then I'd be like putting up my books on the shelf because they were always on the floor. I read on the
Yeah.
floor, and I'd always be putting up my books, and then I'd see, oh my gosh, I'm like right here. I just want to, and then she'd come back hours later, Ani. I am still on the floor
With the books
reading
around
a
it.
so anyway, so I do a lot of reading some like personal finance books. So I'll do a couple. One of them is I Will Make You Rich.
Okay.
This one is by an Indian entrepreneur. I don't know how to say his name. It's Ramit is his first name, but he is an absolute genius when it comes to making your money work for you, which I am 100% passionate about learning how to make your money work harder or work smarter, not harder, because there are so many tools out there that we don't even know about
Mhm.
that all of the wealthy and rich people pay people to know so that they can get more
Right.
money. So that's a great book that I've read. I actually have it on Audible and Kindle
Yeah.
because I love listening to it so much. Um, and then the other one, this is kind of more just like for the entrepreneur life. The entrepreneur roller coaster has been really taking me from looking at my business, my job as like a hobby into actually a business. And it's really, really insightful and has some hard things that, as entrepreneurs, we need to think about, but not just entrepreneurs, like just really, they're good for anybody. I would argue that homemakers, that's your job, is
Right.
to run the family.
Right.
That is absolutely a job. And so having that mentality and the right mentality to go about that, I think is super important. And so that one is also really good. So
Yeah, I notice a lot of parallels. Like since I started my businesses, a lot of parallels between business and my life.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
in different areas and stuff. Like it is uncanny
exactly.
how much
Isn't it?
similarities. Like how that roller coaster, it could easily be not the entrepreneur roller coaster, but the roller coaster of life.
Life. Exactly. Exactly. And it really is. It really is a roller coaster. I'm here for
Mhm.
it, but
Yeah, yeah.
sometimes I'm like,
No
oh
hands.
God, I don't like heights.
So finally, where can listeners find you, Sharon?
Well, I am very active on Facebook. I have an Instagram. I do a lot of Instagram reels and Facebook reels. I'm on TikTok as well. And then I have a website. If you want to book a call with me, any time with me is free. I know a lot of financial advisors and consultants, you pay by the hour or they get, a portion of your assets or whatever.
Mhm.
I am always free for my clients. I am non-fee based. So what that means is I get paid by companies and not my clients. All right. So anytime you want to reach out to me, my time is always available. I really value relationships with people. And so going to get coffee, going to get a glass of wine. I also have events that I advertise on my Facebook about on a monthly basis here in Billings and virtual. So yeah, anytime you wanted to see where all of those are, my website, SharonWMooney.com. You can see those there. And then also my social media. Yeah.
All
Facebook,
right.
Instagram, TikTok.
So I'm going to put Sharon's website and all her social media links right there into the show notes of today's episode. So definitely go check her out. Sharon, thanks so much for coming on today and sharing with us your wisdom.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you for the honor of getting to share part of my story and what I do with your listeners. I so appreciate it.
Anytime.